All right, welcome back to the Chefprenuer podcast. I'm here with Chef Pedro today. Chef, how are you doing?
Amazing. How about you, Chef?
I'm doing great. Well, I wanted to again bring you on the podcast today. I'm really excited for this interview because I believe that you have an amazing story to share, and I think a lot of you that are listening to this podcast right now are going to be really inspired by Pedro's story. And that's the whole purpose of this: is we want you to feel inspired, but we also want to give you that motivation that you need if you're looking for it. And again, I think Pedro, you have a great story. And so I'm just going to ask you some questions and kind of get this going. So tell us a little bit about your background. You have a little bit of an accent, so most people obviously are going to pick up on that really quick on this podcast. But tell me where you're from.
I'm from Brazil originally. I'm half, Portuguese, half Italian parents. I, being all my life traveling the world, but originally from Brazil.
Awesome, from Brazil. And how long have you been in the States?
Well, I came here the first time when I was 19. I came for a wedding, and then I decided not to come back. That was really kind of, and then I realized that, okay, I'm going to go to the wedding. It was 2 years later, and I was here. I decided to come into the wedding, and it was fun. Never went back.
Wow. So you've been here a while. And now, obviously, you're currently a chefpreneur, right? But what did you, when you first came to the United States, like it sounded like you came here, like you said, for a wedding, and then you never left or went back home per se. Tell me how you kind of got in the industry. Tell me a little bit of the story of that.
Well, I remember being in the restaurant world very young and seeing parents, family, friends. In Brazil, there is very common to have Portuguese roots or Italian roots. People have restaurants. Well, when I came to the United States, I was already doing marketing school in Brazil. I never thought about being in the restaurant business. And for this wedding that I came here, I felt that somehow I ended up working for the restaurant because I lived in New York on a very, very easy life. And I ended up meeting chefs that end up changing my life. And that put me on the restaurant business like in a different way. I forgot about my life in the past. I pretty much decided to be, like of service. I started serving people in the restaurant, and then I started getting close to the chefs, cooking with them, and then learn with them. And that's how I started. That was when I was 21 years old, and I'm 45 right now, and a lot happened after that. But that's how I got in.
Wow. So basically you got in with some chefs that were kind of took you in, it sounds like, and then started to teach you in just all aspects of the restaurant. So that's amazing. Just to let everybody know some of your pedigree and where you worked. I mean, do you mind mentioning some of the restaurants that you worked at in New York?
Yes. I started when I met Chef Daniel Bolu. And Daniel Bolu it was everything for me. I have even a son. His name is Daniel. And one of my best friends now, also Daniel. Daniel is always around me. It's amazing. This angel name, like maybe Pedro, it connects with the Daniels and and the Michaels and whatever it is. I believe in a lot of miracles. And yeah, Daniel Bolu was my first one. I worked with Sancho in Hawaii. I work with Mathieu Fry in New York. I work for Bruno Bertrand. It's Master Chefs. And they all taught me in a very funny way by the yelling, by the old school kind of thing. Okay, I learned on the hardcore way. There's human beings only learn from 3 different ways, or repetition, embarrassment, or yelling. You'll never forget. It's crazy. Yeah, and then you're in San Diego. San Diego, I work for Chef Russell Hawkins. That's pretty much the best chef I had in California. Okay, taking out the other chefs that I work for, but all the ones here in San Diego, the best one in my opinion was Russell Hawkins. And you know Russell also. It's funny though how the world is. It's small.
I know Russell is a great guy. Yeah, he's a great guy. Okay, well, awesome. Yeah, like many people don't realize that. First of all, it's impressive because Daniel Boulou, I mean, he's one of the most famous chefs in the United States, obviously a French chef, but yeah, there's a lot of the old school ways of doing things, which is the yelling, the screaming, the way that, basically just that part of the industry is pretty grim. And I want to dive into your story regarding to that because that usually the traditional kind of culinary industry path that you took with even though it's not traditional in the sense of like who it was, because it was very, very big names, but like you said, very traditional in the sense of yelling and kind of that aggressive, stressful approach. What can you let people know about how many hours did you put in when you were working on the craft, and also, kind of tell just your own version of the story of how that affected your personal life, because you tell us a little bit about that too. Let's start there. What are your family that you have? I know that if you wanted to share a little bit about your family, and also again, just how that industry started to take a toll on your personal life.
Well, as I mentioned, I have a half Italian family, and these people, they had restaurants in Brazil, and they it's so funny that you grow up on such a thing. You don't realize, you take for granted a little bit because you don't know how much work is in it. But when I arrived in New York, and then I was almost homeless for a while. Okay, homeless for real. Let's put it that way. And then I met Daniel, and Daniel took me to his basement, and then I learned with the chefs. And then I never thought of seeing so much work or so much stress or so much dedication from people. The craft for them was everything, and then when I came from this family that I never seen such a degree of intensity or degree of commitment in the kitchen. And when I saw Daniel over there in New York, oh la la, my life changed, because I knew the sense of urgency and the things that I learned there would put me in a life on a very high, level. But this level costs you a lot. It costs you your life. You work 15, 16. Sometimes you overnight making things. And sometimes you be there for 6 hours, or sometimes you sleep 3 hours and then you go back. And then you start everything from scratch. 7 in the morning, everything from scratch, all the way to the night. And 5 o'clock, service starts. And it's intense. Chefs come and stuff, and they come in and look at it, and they have to be precisely perfect. and it's not. It's fun for a while. After a couple of years, if you realize that you need a little more from life, you need to see the light, you need to see the sun, you need to enjoy more life. And that's why I left that group of the Michelin group. It wasn't not there, because I came from Brazil. I couldn't be in New York on the weather like that all the time. It's so cold. Imagine you in a very high-end environment, but it's very intense, that you have no life besides your chef life. And then you go home and you can't enjoy anything. Or in your weekends, it's so cold and you can't do anything. So one day I decided to leave New York, and I told Daniel, I said, Daniel, please send me somewhere. He's like, oh, well, I'll go to Hawaii and then, live a life. And then he's like, he wrote in a book to me. He said, go have a wonderful life as a chef and enjoy Hawaii. And then I went to Hawaii, and I realized that I went to high-end restaurant. I went to work for Sanchoy, and Sanchoy was like, this is not restaurant Daniel, but here we're gonna teach you how to put the very, best food together, things like that. And then I went there and I realized that I could surf, and then go work at the same day. Oh, how good is that? Right. But with time, I went back to the mainland, and then I went to Florida, work with a chef that worked with me and Danielle, uh, Chef Mathieu Fry. Chef Mathieu, oh, Pedro, I'm opening a catering division in Florida. Can you come in? And I flew from New York, from Hawaii to Florida, and I helped him build this catering company. And but I realized also the Florida, the much driving that I have to do, and so much. Um, it was not enough money, in my opinion, for the work that I was doing in Florida. Florida is very seasonal too. It's not like at that time, right? That was what I'm 45. That was like 20 something years ago. So, so at that time it wasn't profitable. I went back to New York. Back to New York. I went back to Danielle, and then I made some money catering a lot in New York. When you would do catering, you'd make a lot of money. It's amazing. You can make $1,000 in a day, but it takes your life away from you. And if you're not healthy enough, you're going to spend that money on the hospital, so it's not worth. Or you end up dead. And then I got married and I found this beautiful Brazilian lady, and she was in the catering division too. She was like the Metro G kind of thing, and hostess. And then I realized that, well, let's go live where? Oh, let's live in San Diego. Okay, San Diego will be. So we came to San Diego, it's closest thing from Rio de Janeiro and my hometown. And in San Diego, I worked for my first job was Nordstrom's. Nordstrom was a restaurant division. It was so funny because I never realized there was a restaurant inside of Nordstrom. I was poor as never got inside of Nordstrom. So when I got there and I saw this beautiful restaurant, but it's totally different food, right, from New York. And then I was like, oh, this is so easy. I got there for a couple of years, and then I realized it wasn't for me. And then I said, I need something better. And then I went to a hotel called the Grand Del Mar. And this Grand Del Mar, it's funny that in your background also you work for them too, right, Chef? And then the Grand Del Mar ended up...
I was the banquet chef there and the sous chef.
Yeah. Right. And then over there I ended up being the sous chef, and then I helped a lot of people for doing banquets. Chef Scott was doing banquets at that time. It's a bone, tall guy, and he was intense, that kid. And the other one that worked with him too, it was even more intense. They had this nose, it's too high in the sky, but I loved them. I mean, one of them, I still have contact with them till now. But after that, I went back to Nordstrom's because I realized that I was realizing already that the world of the culinary, it wasn't, everything anymore. Family was more important, and kids came in, and then I went back to Nordstrom for the 8 hour job, the corporate 8 hour job. But that kind of corporate 8 hour job, it was very corporate. I ended up getting close to the regional people, and then getting close to the regional level. And then you have 8 restaurants in your back. And imagine, man, one day, man, it's too much stress, too little money, and you only have one heart and one brain. Sometimes, things go sour, and I end up going in the ambulance a couple of times from my restaurant world life. and Nordstrom was the first time, and then I was working as a banquet chef for the past 5 years maybe, at the Santa Luz Club. And the Santa Luz Club, man, I end up living in the ambulance again. One time for another chef, because somehow the chef changed for a year, and this chef that came in between this, oh my God, that guy made my life very hard. And he was one of those yellers, and I was already 40 years old. And imagine someone yelling in your face, and when you're 40 years old, it's not fun anymore. So I then I end up finding you, and that changed everything.
Wow. Well, thank you for that. Man, that's a lot to take in. And many people in this industry has dealt with that. I mean, I know personally I've dealt with going to the hospital, having anxiety attacks, stress, because I've been there, done that. 70, 80 hours a week, no life, no holidays, not seeing my kids, not seeing my wife. And it takes a toll. It takes an insane toll. When you joined us in Orlando, and we'll get to that in a minute, but when you joined us in Orlando, you were telling me a story about even your knives and your chef jackets, and that you kind of had the last straw. Tell our audience a little bit about what happened with that.
Yeah, and I went to the retreat because of a chef that I work for, Russell, and I ended up meeting all of you folks from Chefprenuer. And then it's funny because I went there to work, and then when I realized that I was looking to what's happening in the conversations, and then I was picking up, little by little here and there, and in the end of it, I realized that was the game. But one day I came back from coming back to the story of how I finished up with my knives and my chef coats. They came from one day. I realized that losing my family, I lost my family in Brazil for coronavirus. Okay. And I also never had time for my kids. So that was pretty much two things that I was realizing that I couldn't be in this industry anymore, and I had to change. So I decided to go back to school, and going back to school, I need time. And to need time, I need to leave the kitchen. So I realized that I had to, go back to the front of the house, like the way I started at Daniel Bolu, in the beginning, in the front of the house, learn how to serve, learn how to please people, and then go back in the kitchen, learn how to cook, because you're going to do both. You're going to plate the food and go serve it. But I realized that the school was more important than anything else, because I need time for myself. I felt like I lost all my life in the kitchen for those reasons, being there all the time and not being the kids, and not traveling enough to see my mom or everybody else. And then I came back one day from after changing my shift from back of the house to front of the house. And I decided to throw away all my knives, burn the chef coats that I had at home. And I burned it, but I realized that a couple months later, I have to buy more. Because of you, man. Thank you.
Well, thank you, man. That's deep. When I heard that story, we I'll kind of give my side a little bit of part of the story too, because the way that we met, right, was pretty interesting. So you were mentioning that you worked at Santa Luz. Well, I knew Russell from Chef Russell from when I worked at the Sheraton Resort when I was the executive chef, and he was the executive sous chef a long time ago or before me. And we ended up meeting, and then we met a few different times working with kind of part-time as I was getting my business started with a catering company. And basically through that, I knew Russell. And so Chef Daniel, for doing my executive chef, which we're going to be doing an interview with him on this podcast as well very soon. I connected him with Russell on doing some pizza and things like that for the country club, for Santa Luz Country Club, because Chef Daniel is a master Pozzolo. So All that being said, our maitre d' in Dinner with a Chef is Tony Venegas, and we do these retreats that everybody knows about that have become very, very well known in Orlando. And unfortunately, Tony was not able to attend this time as part of the team. So Chef Daniel's like, hey, I have this guy named Pedro, that I think that you would love. And excuse me. And he says, Chef, just give him a call and see if he'll do, come and help us serve at the retreat to these, to the students that are attending. And of course, I didn't know you at all, Pedro. And I was like, you know what? But, I trust Chef Daniel a lot. So I said, let me give this guy a call because we need somebody on the team. And I remember when I called you that night and we talked, and I felt a connection there. And then we started talking, and then we found out, that we worked for some of the same people, and there was a lot of crossover in our past, even though we never officially met. It was like kind of weird, right? And then you the first time, literally, it was kind of weird because the first time I met you, like in person, because now I live in Atlanta and you still live in San Diego. And, was when we met in Orlando at the mastermind retreat, the Chefprenuer mastermind retreat. And so you get there as part of the team. You're not even a student. And, we do our retreat, and it's an amazing time, very emotional, but we also give them so much as far as value and learning how to really create an amazing world-class, personal chef business. And all of a sudden, we're kind of wrapping up the event, and throughout the event, me and you are talking some more. And basically it comes down to, at the end of the retreat, we start talking to each other, and you share this story of what you're sharing right now. And you're sharing all this pain and anguish that you went through in your career. And it really just hit my heart. It really just hit my heart. And not knowing that kind of, even you being on the team and serving, you got this, kind of this amazing reaction to what we were teaching. And I remember you telling me what you just basically told me right now, which was like, and until you came along, you basically, you were saying that, we reignited your passion for food, but also seeing a different way on taking a passion for food and cooking and serving, and feeling like I can have a life. I don't have to abandon my children, abandon my family to be a chefpreneur. And that's what we teach, because I've been there, and now we're on a mission to help many passionate chefs and cooks do the same. But I wanted to share my little side of that story, because for those of you guys that are listening to this podcast, like literally me and Pedro, we just met back in February, basically, right? Back in the end of January, really. And in person. And so, but he's become like a brother to us. And it's pretty incredible, Pedro, on how this story has come into fruition. And so, we recently had our Chefprenuer challenge, and then I see Pedro enrolled in our online program, and I'm like, wait, like he was just part of the team, and now he's enrolling in a program, and now you've started your own business. Tell us a little bit about the business that you literally just started. And let us know your website so that, we could put this out there. But tell us a little bit about now your journey as a chefpreneur, about your business.
Well, it's funny. The end of the retreat, I remember that talk, and then I really told you, I say, Chef, I can't believe it that this is happening. I really saw all these people here coming to this retreat to learn how to do this, and it was amazing how much passion they have and how much, desire they want to open their own personal chef business, even though some of them never been in the restaurant world. It's amazing how much passion and that passion, that kind of a, initiative end up triggering, something inside of me. Because I saw a lot of them cooking and a lot of them, struggling with little things, and somehow I was there and I helped them and I was, serving them and helping them. It was kind of fun, and then brought me back, to places that when I was, being helping people cook, like being a sous chef or being a cook itself, and for some chefs, some high end chef, and and that put me on a position that I said, you know what, I love this. I really love this thing. I like to serve them. I like to help them. I like to be in this kind of environment, and that's not stressful at all. There's nothing to be stressful about it. And for my whole life was about. And I decided to go and see what you're all about. And then I started looking to see who is Andres and what Andres does. And then I realized that you pretty much you are an amazing person that really want to help people. And this makes a difference. It's not something that you want to, create it to make money and shit. No, dude, I see how you do things. You do things on a different way. You do with your heart. And when I touched your heart, because somehow I meditate a lot, and I feel the energy of the person too. It's kind of fun. But what I realized that you gave me a path that go back to what I love to do, and realize that can give me time, because I don't need to be on a stressful environment. I can be on a different home every day. And I opened a personal chef business after going through the course that was a crash course that you had for a week. And and then I realized that I can do it. You know what I mean? Like, oh my God, I can do this thing. Let's try it. And then I built a website on the tool that you have. I bought this amazing software that you have, and called Sous Chef. And this software, you have ability to build your own website. Yeah, and over there was very easy. Nobody needs to know anything. It's crazy how you go there, just build your website. And I branded my name now. I don't want to work for anybody else. I want to work for Pedro. You know what I mean? I want to work for Chefprenuer. I want to work for something that's going to change lives. For me, I'm building Gaian Chefs. Gaia is the Mother Earth, right? And I want to be one of the chefs for Mother Earth. And I'm cooking the earth for the earth, pretty much. We are the earth. We belong from it. We came from it, and we're going back to it. So I'm being the Gaian chef, and I like the way I approached, the business the same way Chefpreneur built the business. It gives you a business on the box, pretty much, and then I follow the steps, and here I am. I'm a Chefpreneur, and I work for myself, and I'm happy like I've never been before.
All right, Pedro. So, one last question. Thank you so much for sharing that. One last question for you. What would you tell anybody who is just maybe on the fence about just following their dreams of having a personal chef business and becoming a chefpreneur?
Well, I'm going to give an advice that comes from the heart, and you should try to work for yourself. Everything starts with a thinking, and you need to take actions, and you're going to get tools for your actions, because you might not know how to do it. Some people know how to do it, but maybe they think they know how to do it. But in reality, trust me, you don't know how to do it. Okay. Even you've been in the kitchen for 20, 30 years, or maybe 5 years, or never been in the kitchen, and you have the heart, and you have the love to serve, and you have, the initiative to be proactive, and you have a sense of urgency. And if you know that your value is, because a lot of people don't know their value a lot. So you have to think about it. Stop working for someone that's going to create an empire, and one day you're going to be replaceable, and it's snap a finger, or you're going to be in the hospital, because you work way too many hours, or you're going to lose your wife or your husband because you work too much, and you're not going to connect with your kids. Come on, get out of this life and become a chefpreneur. Go and try to build a business for yourself, or go and try to help someone that is having this kind of business already, so you can really feel and see what the other side of the universe is, because you think that your world is just the restaurant. You need the paycheck, you need that thing, you need the insurance, oh my gosh, no, get out and work for yourself.
Wow. Thank you, Pedro. I couldn't say it any better myself, man. Well, brother, I just want to say thank you for being on this podcast. I appreciate your time. And to everyone listening, I hope that you guys enjoyed Pedro's story in this interview. And again, we can't wait to see you guys in the next episode. Thank you again, Pedro.
It was a pleasure, Chef. Thank you.